Right, buckle up. We're going to talk about Manchester City's case. Because if Manchester City win this case, I don't just think it's a disaster for everybody in football, except, a few City fans. I think it's a direct challenge to the integrity of football. And let me tell you, I think that's exactly what their owners want. Now, City have been accused of breaking financial fair play rule. 115 charges. So not inconsequential number of charges. And supposedly, actually, it's 130 charges, which is news to me. Let's not forget that these aren't just accusations of a little bit of fiddling around with the books. These are alleged inflation of sponsorship deals, paying managers and players through secretive means with the intention of dodging FFP and then failing to cooperate with investigations. In fact, putting a complete block on cooperating with investigations to the extent where actually the only action that they've done is kind of countersue the league. And if they get away with this, if they walk away scot-free, it isn't just a victory for Manchester City, it's a victory for something a lot bigger and a lot more insidious. It's a victory for an empire. Because I don't think this is just about football anymore. Let's talk about City Football Group. It is a literal football empire that's spread across the globe. They own teams in America, Australia, Spain, Japan, Uruguay, India. I mean, didn't they give Pep's brother a whole football club? It's a perfectly normal thing to do, right? They've got fingers in a lot of pies around the world. And, on one hand, you could say, it's just, trying to find the players in certain areas and certain markets. I think that'd be very naive to presume that was the case. It feels like it's been done to bypass the rules that are there to keep football competitive. That's what it feels like. And this empire is backed by the wealth of a nation state. Since the 2008 Abu Dhabi takeover, City have systematically pushed back against all the collective agreements that exist to protect the Premier League's competitive structure. The Premier League, in its inception, was done on an agreement of one club, one vote, and that you needed the overwhelming majority to be able to change stuff. And since 2008, there's some real good info in the book called The Club by Jonathan Clegg. It's a fantastic book. And in there, the very last quarter or so of the book, it just details the lengths and the decisions and the attitude of Manchester City to the rest of the league. And I think that's very telling. It was no surprise that, they, like our shitbag owners, were a key driver behind the failed Super League project, which was an open declaration on every single thing that we hold dear in football. And on one hand, I can semi-understand the fans, those few, when they say these rules have come into place to stop Manchester City, to stop PSG. Where were they when Manchester United was spending money? Where were they when Blackburn was spending money? Where was they when Roman Abramovich poured billions into Chelsea? And they're correct, those results didn't exist. Jack Walker wasn't restricted into what he could put in from the money he made from British Steel. Or Newcastle when they spent absolute mental money in the 90s, which everyone seems to forget about. The difference between all of those and Manchester United and this iteration of Manchester City, for starters, Manchester United made its own money. Manchester United has never had a sugar daddy. Manchester United has never gone beyond its means. Everyone that likes to point out United are in debt now, yep, it's not because we've been spending it on players. It's such a straw man argument to be like, Manchester United have been allowed to go into debt. We went into debt because we changed ownership. Literally nothing changed. One day we're not in debt. The next day now we're in debt. We got nothing for it. Manchester United making its own money and spending it should never have been a problem. Being good at business is not the issue. And at some point in time, being the good local businessman that has done well and wants to put his money into his football team on some level, that was all right until it wasn't all right. It was all right for Roman Abramovich to do it. That changed when it was literal nation states and the idea of the sort of soft power that can be exerted through having a football team as the front facing of a literal nation. That's changed. And obviously, Newcastle are now in that boat as well with their Saudi ownership. And the problem is, you can't have a rational discussion with City fans about this. They are on the hyper defensive mode about everything. I wonder, is that down to some multi-million pound PR funded thing by their owners? They've been spoon-fed this narrative that their club is innocent, under siege from jealous rivals and media vendettas. It's laughable. I think you can question the legalities of how the evidence against them was obtained. I don't think you can question the evidence. They've turned this entire case into sort of some us against the world battle, when in reality, they're pushing the boundaries of what should be allowed in fair sport. Now, if City win, let's paint the worst case scenario. The Premier League looked like an absolute joke. The Premier League hit them with the charges. It feels like the same week they were cleared by CAS, right? Wasn't they cleared by CAS on an account of a statute of limitations, which supposedly isn't relevant for the Premier League?
Right, these days, staying connected and secure online isn't just a nice to have, it's an absolute must have. Whether you're streaming a match or you're browsing from abroad, that is where Surfshark comes in, making sure that you are always sorted no matter where you are. Surfshark is a solid VPN that keeps your online identity safe, encrypting your data, keeping those nosy cyber criminals and big companies at bay. With Surfshark, you switch up your IP address and virtually explore the internet from anywhere. They've got over 3,200 servers across 100 different countries, and Surfshark gives you the power to unblock sports streams and get into global Netflix libraries. Change your virtual location, dodge geo-restrictions, and access blocked websites with ease, whether it's iPlayer, ITV, Netflix from abroad. Surfshark makes sure you never miss a thing. Enjoy a hassle-free streaming experience with the Clean Web, which keeps those annoying ads and malware out of your way. And the best bit, one account covers all of your devices. If you're ready to step up your online game, use the code Howson, that's HOWSON, for an extra 4 months free at surfshark.com/Howson. Your ticket to secure, unrestricted browsing is just a click away. And with a 30-day money-back guarantee, you've got nothing to lose. Get the freedom and security you deserve with Surfshark. Thanks to Surfshark sponsoring this video. Click the link in the description and get this exclusive discount.
The Premier League, when they hit them with these charges, it feels so long ago now that it happened. When the Premier League hit them with these charges, it felt significant at the time, and it felt like, oh, they're going to get them here. Because the timing of it would have made them look incredibly stupid if they was to hit them with them charges and then City walk away with nothing. You accuse them of financial doping, misleading and obstructing investigations. The evidence which you have is them seemingly outright lying about the sources of the income. If the Premier League allow them to get away with this, because I believe it's a tribunal rather than a court case, they are going to have some serious questions about how the investigation was handled, but also the credibility of the league itself will be on the table. And I think that the Premier League are in a little bit of a rock and a hard place. I don't know what the right thing to do is. I don't know what the right thing to do is. For everyone saying relegate them to the National League, for everyone saying points deductions, all the rest of that sort of stuff, the only thing I can think of is fining them makes no sense. You can't fine someone who's financially doped. It makes absolutely no sense. If they're acquitted, they're going to go after everybody. All the media, all the Premier League, anybody who has dared criticise them. The lawsuits will be flying left, right and centre. Sky Sports, the Mail, Jamie Carragher, everybody is going to be in the firing line if they completely get away with this scot-free. If the Premier League does not sanction them. And even if they do sanction them, there's going to be so many levels of sanctions. What would be enough? You know, you've seen hefty point deductions in the league recently for teams that have fell foul of PSR regulations. And those are teams who have just not made enough money or maybe bought a player too much. I have to think that the decade of systematic hiding and misdirection is what they're accused of, has to be more significant than we thought we had a sponsor deal coming in and we didn't. So you can't just issue point deductions. And if you issue point deductions, when does it end? Do you issue a point deduction for this season, that season, that season, that season, that season, that season, that season? And does that then change the course of the titles in those seasons? What about teams who got relegated who lost to Manchester City and got relegated by a point? Does that open you up to lawsuits from those teams? You allowed this cheating to go on for so long. We ended up relegated and I can just see an enormous can of worms, actually, no matter what the decision the Premier League make is. If you find them, everyone's going to say it's not enough. If you strip titles off them, well, we all saw what happened with Juventus in Italy and the Calcio scandal that happened there. Italian football has not fully recovered from that yet. Now, that was different, right? I can almost empathise with some of the City fans going, we blagged it because of the rules that came in. The cheating, if found guilty, that Manchester City have done is nowhere near as egregious as players taking performance-enhancing drugs or bribing referees, which is what's happened in Italy. It's not, right? Cooking the books a little bit and blagging sponsors and this, that, and the other. Right. It's against the rules, but there's levels to cheating, isn't there? I can almost empathise with them. But the fact that it's been so blatant, so deliberate, so underhand, and for so long, as a United fan, I would absolutely love it if it tainted all of their title wins. It's hilarious. It's genuinely hilarious. It's an absolute massive dose of copium for all United fans in terms of, all right, yeah, the evil empire. Doesn't really matter anyway, does it? Because it's all doped up. That'd be a brilliant thing for us to be able to say in the mix of all this. Internationally, can the Premier League allow this to happen? The Liga president, Javier Tebas, which is funny when you think about the fact that there's an investigation going on into Barcelona paying referees at the moment, is one of the most vocal critics of City's finances, accusing them of distorting European football. If City walk away unscathed, you know, the credibility of Tebas and La Liga are going to be questioned. It won't just end up being a win for City. It'll be a win for all. Like, what do you think Newcastle are going to do? What do you think PSG are going to do? If City win, it could see a complete overhaul of financial rules across football. The way clubs spend could be blown wide open. Financial fair play? I tend to understand a little bit of people saying it was designed by the cartel clubs, which isn't a thing, right? To keep the status quo. And when you look on the face of it, I can't disagree with that. I don't think that was what UEFA was trying to do. I think they were looking for, sustainability within this. They're seeing the spiralling of wages, the spiralling of transfer fees, and I think it's been done to protect clubs. I think the execution of it could have been better. I don't have a better model. I'm just saying. But as soon as one precedent is set, and if it's Manchester City being cleared, the rest are just going to follow suit. Chelsea with whatever the fuck they're doing at the moment, which no one has a clue what their end goal is. They just seem like he's either genius or absolutely off his head. And I couldn't tell you which one it is at the moment. PSG, Newcastle, they're going to push harder. They're going to start testing the limits until the rules become meaningless. And without parity, we don't have a sport. Every single club has felt the sting of FFP. And every club that has had any sort of sanctions placed upon it because of FFP will jump on the bandwagon. What then to the uneven playing field that would exist? This case is not just about City. It is about the future of football itself. And I think it's extremely complex. And I think that the Premier League will be wrong in the eyes of everyone, no matter what decision they make. I don't think there's a single decision that they can make that appeases everybody. Now, of course, the people that you care the least about appeasing is Manchester City and Manchester City fans, because fuck them, right? But in the eyes of the rest of the world and the eyes of the rest of the Premier League, what can they do to Manchester City that would make up for what's happened and respect the integrity of what's just happened? And it isn't just another football scandal. If City win, the power dynamic in football changes forever. The rules will be rewritten or abolished. The Premier League's claim to being the best in the world will be absolutely hollow. The parity that has existed and kept the Premier League relatively competitive for years will be gone. It'll be the league where whoever the deepest pockets can break the rules and win trophies. And I think then you're 10 minutes away from the Saudi Premier League competing inside the Champions League. I mean, we've already been forced to accept this absolute fucking nonsense of a Champions League format because it's slightly better than the Super League shite that we was offered up. The future of football is in the balance at the moment. And if City walk away free, I think it accelerates towards something that will be very unpalatable for a lot of people. And not just because City are winning, just for all of the other sort of associated nonsense that's going to come with it. You know, domestic games played abroad and expansions of different European competitions. And it's already kind of been happening. I think it starts to accelerate. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know what you think would be an appropriate punishment for City if guilty. Because I think even if you relegate them for one season, can you take their trophies off them for the last decade? Does that work? Is that punishment enough? We saw them win them. The Aguero moment exists. Does it change? I don't necessarily want to win trophies in that manner. Do they have it where, like the Tour de France, nobody won? It's a lot of bollocks, isn't it? And that's the sort of stuff that undermines the Premier League. And that's why I think that the factors in this are almost impossible to deal with. Let me know your thoughts. See you in the next one. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.